Our next speaker is my dear friend Alicia Hayes. Alicia recently retired as Director of Lane County Health and Human Services. She previously served as the Director of the Department of Children and Families for Lane County and currently serves on the Eugene Forget School Board. She has worked many years locally, nationally, and internationally on disability rights and inclusion. She lives in Eugene with her wife and their son. Alicia is a former member of the Direction Service Board of Directors and is at the top of my list when I think of highly effective advocates who possess no-nonsense, clean, compelling power. Alicia's topic today is disability porn.
Thank you, Marshall. Mart, is this yours?
No.
Just in case I need it, I want to know who drank out of it last. He did start the day by reminding me when he worked for me, and I guess I chatted with him in my office and scared him, or we won't go any further. It all worked out. It all worked out.
That's Martin, incidentally.
That's Martin. So, you know, it's funny you said, talk about what you're passionate about, and it's a little odd because it means I'm passionate about porn. I do want to talk about, actually I want to talk about inspiration porn today. And when he said you could talk about anything, like he said, I ran Health and Human Services, which included, we had about 650 employees, all sorts of programs. We had juvenile justice, it was my responsibility, mental health, developmental disabilities, our poverty programs. We ran 5 clinics for people, federally qualified health centers. We had veteran services, we had environmental health, public health, all of that. I left 2.5 months ago. And I'm also an elected official on the 4J school board, so I could talk about a lot of different things. But when he said, do whatever you want, and I'm retiring, I said, porn, that's it. We're talking about it. So here we go. Here we go. We're actually going to start with a little history because I think it's important to kind of set the context. Now, I'm only going to go back about 40 years, don't worry, in disability history. And I'm not going to cover much because, you know, at the University of Oregon, you can get a minor in disability studies now. So there's a lot of history there. I'm just going to cover a few things. So back in the spring of 1977, some of you weren't here, some of you were. Do you remember? John Travolta was staying alive. Luke, Princess Leia, and Han Solo were fighting the dark side. And in April of that month, in 1977, 150 people were staging a sit-in at the federal court, the federal building in San Francisco. Some of you may remember that, and I don't know if I have people in the audience who were actually there. But the sit-in happened in a number of cities across the U.S., protesting the fact that the Nixon administration, the Ford administration, and now the Carter administration had not implemented the four years prior when Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, protecting the rights of people with disabilities, was passed. They had not implemented it. And in San Francisco, the folks at the end of the day, like in the other cities, didn't leave. They did not leave the building. They tell stories of the first day of the employees in that building giving them punch and cookies. I picture patting on the head. I had a number of friends that were actually in the building. And at the end of the day, kind of thought they would go home. But they didn't leave. They didn't leave. For 25 days, they stayed in that building. And they didn't compromise. They wanted, oh, let's run a committee, let's do this. They didn't want to water down 504. And they stayed in the building, and it passed. They actually implemented 504, which had a huge impact on people's lives. Many people that I talked to believe they didn't implement, they didn't arrest them and send them on their way because there were no accessible transports, there were no accessible jails or booking stations. In the spring of 1977, I was a junior in high school, and I really could care less what was happening on disability rights. But 14 months later, when the Gang of 19 in Denver stopped buses in that city, my life had changed, and so had my interest in disability rights and inclusion. So on July 5th, 1978, in Denver, Colorado, during the height of the morning rush hour, the Gang of 9, which was the predecessor to ADAPT, surrounded a bus at one of the busiest intersections in Denver. And as another bus pulled up, another group surrounded the bus. Again, like San Francisco, they didn't get arrested. They left the protesters there, surrounding those buses for 2 days. And they stayed in place for those 2 days until the Regional Transportation District agreed to put lifts into their vans. So that 2 days, if you see pictures of them sleeping in front of the bus, that's how it went. But you fast forward to present day, and the sit-ins protesting the repeal of ACA. You watch the news and you see people with disabilities being forcibly removed from their legislators' officers. There are pictures of accessible police transports. They actually transported at least one woman in a bus in Denver, what ironic, as they showed the picture of her going up in the lift that had been fought 4 years ago. And now transports, jail cells, booking stations are all accessible. We've come a long way. I share this story because I believe things can change, and I want to kind of get into the next section around where we're headed. You know where we're headed, you do the work in terms of disability rights, but something that has been intriguing to me, back to the porn piece. But first I want to just kind of start off with like a little story. There are usually, you stop and you talk to strangers, people will talk to you when you're in the store or something. For me, I've categorized 3 things people usually want to stop and talk to me about. The first is they want to share a story about themselves or someone they know who uses a wheelchair or who has a disability. I have to say I always stop and listen, even though sometimes that is, they tell the story and then they talk about how they were disabled or they used a chair and now they walk, and maybe I could too. I stop, I listen, I nod, because you can't be in public office and you can't run a department of 650 people without learning how to stop and nod and be kind. It's also just how I was raised. Second reason people stop and want to talk to me is to let me know they'll pray for me, or to let me know if I pray I'll be healed. I may have been raised to be nice, but I've also raised to be a little sarcastic. So my answer to that one is, oh no, I don't want to do that praying thing. I prayed once for good parking. The third and more typical interaction is when people share with me that I inspire them. Usually it's not because of my work or my political career. Usually it's something as simple as opening a door for them, or even opening a door for me, or pushing a shopping cart. I had to do very little to get people's accolades. It's always nice to be recognized for your accomplishments, but going shopping on your own isn't one that should garner that much fanfare. Given the way I raised, I smile and I really just accept their sentiments, but it always leaves me feeling a little yucky, if you will. And then one day, my partner, who spends a lot more time on the internet and of technology than I do, sorry Martin, I still not there, showed me a TED Talk, and I don't know if any of you have seen this TED Talk. Stella Young, she's a woman from Australia who has a disability. She's a comic and she's a journalist. Stella was the first person to coin the phrase inspiration porn. I'm gonna repeat that. Inspiration porn is a term used to describe a common tendency in which able-bodied people condescend to those with disabilities by suggesting they are brave or special. How many of you watch Speechless? Anybody love it? In Speechless, they described inspiration porn. Inspiration porn is a portrayal of people with disabilities as one-dimensional saints who only exist to warm the hearts and open the minds of able-bodied people. He says it really fast during the show. I had to slow it down to get the quote. So if that doesn't make sense to you, let me give you a couple of examples that will go along with the definition. You may have seen a poster that says, "The only disability is a bad attitude." I actually found that in one of my department, in one of our offices. I'm like, "Ooh, can we take that down?" The only disability is a bad attitude. Or maybe that poster of the young man who's an amputee, who's doing competitive swimming with the comment, "What's your excuse?" Or those news stories which show the able-bodied person asking the person with the disability to prom. Or the young man impacted with autism getting a chance to play in the last basketball game of the year, and he makes 5 three-pointers in a row. And who hasn't seen the Facebook post of the young child hearing for the first time after cochlear implants? And during last year's Super Bowl, both Toyota and Microsoft used inspiration porn in their commercials, warming the hearts and opening the minds of able-bodied people. Have become so used to seeing these images, we rarely question the cost of people with disabilities. I love Stella's comment in her TED Talk, where she stated that no amount of sitting at the bottom of a staircase and radiating a positive attitude will change the stairs into a ramp. Or having positive thoughts in a library will change printed books into Braille. So instead of having my heart warmed by the player with autism who made 5 3-pointers at the end of the last game of the season, I'm questioning the coach's ability to see talent. He having missed a consistent 3-point shooter that could have helped his team all season long. If you're new to detecting inspiration porn, here's a little test. If the news coverage of a story in the paper or in a commercial wouldn't have been made the news without the person being disabled, or if they were an able-bodied person, there's a good chance it's inspiration porn. Like it's not national news when a boy asks a girl to prom, or someone makes 5 3-pointers in a game, or someone swims competitively. If the only reason it made news is because that person had a disability, there's a good chance it's inspiration porn. If the story is about an able-bodied person assisting a disabled person, and the disabled person is only there as a prop, not having the story told from their perspective, there's a good chance it's inspiration porn. And it's an excellent chance that it's not helping move disability rights and inclusion forward. It's a good chance it's hurting the agenda. By the way, I did choose to not wear my t-shirt that said my other disability is a bad attitude, because we were being filmed. People who work with people with disabilities, parents with children with disabilities, partners and friends of people with disabilities also experience the burden of inspiration porn. Those of you who work with people with disabilities, I'm sure, have heard people praise you for your work, suggest that you are either an angel, a saint, or a hero because you work with people with disabilities. Maybe, am I right? Yes. I've talked to a number of parents and professionals who have experienced this, and they have shared with me various responses they give to these comments. Some I can share, some I probably shouldn't. So we need to call out when we see this happening. We need to ensure that the stories are told from the perspective of the person with the disability. Better yet, listen to the stories and experiences of people with disabilities themselves. We need to hear authentic voices, not just of youth, but youth with disabilities and people with disabilities. We do not need to tolerate the objectification of people with disabilities. We do not need to tolerate inspiration porn. And I'm asking you to be a part of that solution. Thank you. And couple of final notes I just want to share with you. I had the experience of actually meeting Stella Young, and if you get a chance, it's a great TED Talk. She came to Eugene. I got an email, which I ignored the first time I saw it because I thought it was spam, from the State Department. She came to Eugene, she traveled in the US learning about disability rights, and I got to spend a couple of hours with her in my office, and it was a great time. And if I didn't have a school board meeting, I think going out for a drink with her would have been even more fun. But unfortunately, I did get an email from her friend a couple of months later to let me know that Stella had passed away. So when you see that video, please have a chance to take a look at it. And her TED Talk is actually called "I'm Not Your Inspiration, Thank You Very Much." And I thank you very much for letting me, now that I'm retired from being a bureaucrat, I get to speak my mind a little more and share with you this particular topic. Thank you for your time.